Let's
Goodness.
turn on the mics and get this show started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday
Hi,
with your
everybody.
hosts. That is Clifford Broadway. He is the writer and producer of Ringers, Lord of the Fans, and a longtime writer and long-form contributor to the OneRing.net. You've written some of our most famous green books, articles, long form that were turned into the People's Guide to J.R.R. Tolkien, which you can find in exclusive bookstores and, of course, the Tolkien official Tolkien library at
Wheaton College.
Wheaton College.
Yes,
That's
in
right.
Illinois. That's right. How about that? Oh, come on. I have to follow this up. And this is Justin. This is my co host and producer extraordinaire, Justin Sewell. He's responsible for some of the coolest t shirt designs that we've ever had at the OneRing.net, including one that he's wearing right now. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Not only that, but he's helped us put together so many huge events. And you know what, Justin? Welcome. Hello. Welcome to this vibrant audience. Do you know what this is, everybody? It is Torn Tuesday. Welcome to your weekly dose of The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and The Silmarillion, and also The Rings of Power,
And we
because
and
there's
we
just so much to
produce
talk about.
this
There's so much to talk about.
we produce this show live, and live is the hardest type of media to produce. There is no script.
We
There's
don't know what we're
never
going to do. So we
we
don't know what
never
we're going
know
to
what we're gonna
say.
we never know
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about. There's never a script. There's no teleprompters here, and sometimes the audio levels are a little bit off. So I hope that is a
Oh, I'm
little more
sorry.
balanced. Thank
Is that
you
me?
to the chat room for keeping us correct on everything.
They're already responding to your bloody shirt. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, behind the scenes, okay, and
Everything I wanted in this show 2 years
behind the
ago.
scenes, no,
Two
no.
years ago, I told you guys the rumor that Galadriel and Sauron sitting in a tree. They form a
Oh no.
relationship after getting shipwrecked at sea. Galadriel and Sauron form a relationship.
Yes,
I
but there was
reported
there
that
was the
rumor
weird
two
rumor.
years ago.
We did report that rumor. I heard that rumor. I was part of that too. But the
You
rumor was
hated this
wrong.
idea.
The
You
rumor
hated.
was wrong because it was a romantic rumor. And this ended up not being a romantic relationship. It was rumored, but the rumor had it twisted. It was twisted a little bit strange, but at least the rumor for the main part of it turned out to be accurate. And you know what this is? This reaches back to the Silmarillion.
Accurate.
And anybody who's a big Silmarillion fan will say, wait a minute, let's think about this. Has there ever been a relationship between an elf and a a Maiar spirit?
Mayar.
And guess
Well,
what? It has happened in the past. It has happened in the past between Thingol and Melian. Everybody knows about the great story of Thingol and Melian. But now here's the new TV show that is, interestingly enough, for better or for worse, deciding to rework these themes that Tolkien touched upon. The idea of, cooperation, bonding, partnership. And in this case, Sauron is trying to present a moral salvation for himself through Galadriel. Spoilers abound. If you guys have not seen every episode of season 1 of The Rings of Power, we're
then what are
about
you
to get
doing
into
here?
it. Yeah, we're about to get into it. Let's just say
It's in the
spoiler
title of the show.
warning.
Well,
Yes,
I
yes.
love reading the chat, and that's why we
It's
sometimes
very
put it on
interesting.
screen in the corner. The chat room is almost universal in saying
Mhm.
that this relationship is not romantic. Orion's
That
angel says
that's what I just said.
there was a bond.
Yes.
Otaku Senpai says, nope, nope, nope. Justin was only half right. I am a halfling, after all. Sarah Peterson says, it's definitely not romantic, although there is
Mhm.
sexual tension in the power element. Like he's definitely trying to seduce her with power. So let me ask you, but I'll ask you, Cliff. How did you read the relationship? Because here's my opinion, and then I'll let you go. I feel that the entire first season meant to imply that a relationship and a bond was forming, not just a platonic bond. And maybe I'm wrong. And please, chat room, keep telling me what your opinion is. But my read on the situation through all 8 episodes
Hmm.
is the show implies that these two people are coming together, closer and otherwise, uh from the third episode, where she's obviously interested in getting close with people, whether it's Elendil or Halbrand, and there's all the like ins and
Hmm.
outs of jailbreaking in Numenor,
Well,
and
in
then
no, in Numenor,
ride with
she's only interested in relationships that will help her get what she wants, which is
what
revenge.
well, I know a lot of marriages that are like that. Let's be honest. Come on, relationships aren't always like eternal, undying love, like Arwen and Aragorn. Okay,
Hmm.
so a relationship of a mutual power is as much as a relationship meant for television as anything else. So my read on the situation is that the production, the writing, the performance, and the editing is meant to imply that a bond is forming, an interpersonal bond, not just a business relationship, but a personal bond is forming. Whether you want to call that romantic or relationship, I'm calling it a relationship, a bond beyond business. And I think that's what I took away from the all 8 episodes, and that's what this scene totally sealed the deal for me. That the show meant to imply that a strong bond is forming, and not just of the business type. But maybe I'm wrong, and I'm just reading into it what I will, because as you know, Cliff, for 2 years now, I've been a big proponent of the Riverdale and Rivendell, situation where I want to see Galadriel date and be interested in other boys and stuff like that. I know you hate that, but I
Yeah,
really like
because
that.
because she's
So
been married to her
no,
husband
she's not.
for
She's not.
centuries.
So let's cancel that out. According to the show, he's gone.
Okay.
Okay. So what is your read on the situation? Are you
Oh
saying it's
boy.
completely platonic?
Yes. Look, um, it is possible for you and I to be right at the same time, because it is definitely a bond about spiritual salvation, but not a bond of romance. And that was not what Halbrand Sauron was trying to get at. So, yes, you're right. It is certainly something that would be beneficial, more beneficial for him in the total balance of things, all of it considered, than it would be for her. According to the only small way that I understand things from episode 8 is that all of this, when we watch it again and look at all the hints and the clues of those episodes 1 through 7, before Halbrand reveals who he really is, it would all read more purely and more specifically, and with that specific kind of, I never really lied to you, but everything everything is built around, to me, the farce. I think it's a farcical idea. I really think it's kind of a ridiculous idea. Not that a Maiar spirit and an elf would have some kind of close bond that would result in, uh, if not marriage, if not that kind of relationship, but something more specific. And yet, I think it's kind of farcical and crazy, and to me, it's just a ridiculous idea that Sauron would go through this kind of subterfuge that we see in the series to get in good with the people of Eregion. In fact, the relationship between Anatar and the Elven Smiths of Eregion was one that lasted so many years and years and years and years. And in episode 8, it looked like Halbrand was guiding Celebrimbor in about 15 minutes. it looked like it was boiled down to
Well, that's a whole
15
nother
minutes
thing we
of
can talk
no, no,
about.
no. All right,
But,
well, but no, no, no. All right, forgive me for getting a slightly bit derailed, but
implied romanticism. You don't
the
feel that that
no,
was a proposal. He
it was
literally held out
no,
his hand
it
and
was all
proposed.
cunning. It was all sleight of hand, and it was all a
A pro-
manipulation. It was all a manipulation
that's
on a
fine.
grand scale,
I
a
know
grand
marriage
scale
is
manipulation.
based on a manipulation. Okay? So this is normal. This is not normal, but this is a norm a regular course
No,
of relationship. It doesn't have
no,
to be romantic. It
no.
doesn't have to be
Nobody,
sexual,
nobody
but there
hides the
is
very nature of who they are to get into a marriage. People do not
you
successfully
have
get into a
not had a
marriage,
lot of relationships then. A lot of
dude.
people hide who
I
they
bring,
are.
I do ceremonies for people. I do wedding ceremonies. I'm a wedding officiant. I know that a wedding, a marriage, is not built on the complete counterfeit idea of somebody essentially presenting themselves as other than who they really are.
Okay. You
Come
know what?
on
The
now.
chat room is telling me to let it go. I lost. No romance here. You're telling me this shot is not
I
meant
was
to imply any romance.
well. What did Halbrand say? Halbrand said, "I will give you strength as much as you will pull me from the darkness." Right? Was that the deal? Was that the deal? Now, I would love to bring on some of these very talented writers like Jennifer Hutchison, who just did an interview with Collider. I would be so grateful for some of these writers in the writers' room to come on this show and let's have
But
a lovely
they're
conversation.
but
But from
they're
what
not
I
going to spoil.
understand, from what I understand, Halbrand was not offering romance. He was not offering that type of relationship. He was
Power
saying,
is a form of romance.
well, you can romanticize that type of relationship, but he didn't have feelings for her the way that Thingol had feelings for Melian. It is not the same. And I brought up
Who's
that
Thingol? Is that like
I
Tom
I
Bombadil?
brought up that it's a Silmarillion analogy. There is a great elf
Rights that they
lord,
don't have rights to.
great the
Okay.
great elf lord Thingol, who fell in love with Melian, the Maya. And this isn't the case that Sauron fell in love with Galadriel. He was manipulating Galadriel to get him off the hook. Now, from what we understand in the books, it is Sauron's inability to go back to Valinor and answer for his crimes and to face the judgment of the Valar that keeps him in the second age of Middle Earth, trying to do his own machinations and his own schemes. And now the showrunners, in their own very clever and interesting way, have tried to bring in this idea of a relationship between a Maiar spirit and a great Noldorin elf, and these two powers having a conversation, a power conversation, not a romantic conversation, but one about power and exchange and redemption in the end is what this Sauron was sniffing around for. And I understand what they were doing, but I can't say that I personally appreciate the story. I don't appreciate it the way that others do. Let's just put that out there. But I do understand what it was.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm wrong.
Okay.
According to you and everybody I've talked to and the chat room, I have misread this whole thing.
Well,
I will take the L and we are moving on. But Cliff, this at the end of the show, you have
well,
this thing where Sauron gets into her brain, or into her mind. Have
mhm.
you ever heard of that before? Is that true to the lore?
Not at all. This is a unique trope of television writing.
Did
This
you
is
like
something
that? I thought it
uh
was cool, but
I
it
thought it
felt
was yeah, I thought it was
very.
interesting.
I thought it was very Star Wars. I felt the whole thing was very Star Wars. It felt like a Kylo asking Rey to join him, and there is a lot of debate whether the Star Wars
Okay.
sequels
Okay.
imply a romantic relationship. All right, chat room, set me straight. It because
Well,
I got the same vibes from Galadriel and Halbrand this season as I got from Rey and Kylo in the Star Wars sequels. Is that there is a romantic relationship implied, but never obvious, and then he offers her power. Join me, and together we will rule the galaxy. And then Sauron does the same thing here. Join me, and together we will rule Middle Earth.
Hmm.
I just got echoes of the Star Wars sequels. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Am I way off? Did you get that vibe, Cliff?
No, I mean, I didn't get that idea of the Kylo and uh um uh I'm sorry, I didn't get the Star Wars vibe. What I thought about really was I was honestly thinking about how many other ways I thought that Professor Tolkien would have given us the moment of challenge where
What do they do, kids?
Galadriel, the moment of challenge. Uh, Galadriel realizes that something is not quite right, and she is suspicious of Anatar. But in this, maybe it is a licensing thing, and they didn't have the ability to license the name Anatar. Maybe that's really what it's all about. But I thought that they were going to build an entire relationship in season 2 between this guy teaching Celebrimbor and Galadriel on the side, trying to come in and say like, no, like a conversation between the Stark siblings, the Stark children. You know, some of the Stark children trust what's going on in King's Landing, and some of the other Stark children do not, and say, no, we don't trust this. So I would have thought that there'd be um, a much more like court intrigue. And we did not get a situation of this main character, Anatar, in in the dramatic irony of all the audience watching the TV show knowing ahead of time who he is, while the characters on screen do not know who he is. And so I thought that's the dramatic irony and the basic construct we were going to get. And we didn't get that in this. It was a whole different idea. And I think my head is still spinning a little bit in the approach what about what it all means and why we even did it this way. Uh, it's it it's it's interesting. It's very interesting. We have I tell you what, we've got some friends. I know that we've got really good people who have other insights and other opinions, but people think that Professor Tolkien is exactly the fantasy space where you're going to look for narratives of redemption and people redeeming themselves and trying to make better on bad mistakes is something that is really in the grist mill of actual real J.R.R. Tolkien uh, uh, thematic groundwork. Everybody expects to find that kind of material there, right? So it's just I I didn't realize, I didn't realize for 8 episodes, 7.5, that Sauron was actually trying to position himself into a redemption arc, and that Galadriel would help him facilitate his redemption. I didn't know it. And Justin, and to anybody, look, I'll just say it directly. Mr. Payne and Mr. McKay, hello, knock, knock, if you're listening. I love you guys. Thanks for making this really beautiful and interesting show. But it probably would have been a lot more impactful if we had all known that Sauron was working his business deliberately, trying to get his own redemption arc in place at Galadriel's expense. If we'd have known that, if we'd had the dramatic irony that characters, on screen did not share the same knowledge that we shared, then we probably would have had so much more to sink our teeth into. I think.
Right.
That's just me. That's
I
just
go
me,
back to
really.
break
But
Better Call Saul is one of the best written shows on TV, and some of the writers on this show are from Better Call Saul. And it is absolutely clear all the way through Better Call Saul what side of good and bad, law and lawlessness every character is. As soon as you meet them, you know where um, their loyalties lie. And then the fun part of the show is seeing those motivations play out and sometimes change. A couple comments in the chat room. I wanted and first off, I want to say thank you to almost all the fans for saving your breath, withholding judgment until the final episode. And I want to commend uh, this fandom for giving the full season 1 a try and not judging. And all through the season, everybody said, look, let's just play this through to episode 8 and see how they land it. And
Well, I'll tell you, there were so many other greater strengths to the series that I enjoyed more than what we're deliberating now. I I'd much rather bask in the glow of Khazad-dûm, and I would rather live in the perfect triangulation of Durin, Disa, and Elrond. Those are the characters I want to be with. That is the stuff that makes me want to come back and watch season 2. But the unfolding, the delicate I think a little bit overdone, and some of the contrivances that were pushed into place to bring the Sauron and Halbrand Galadriel storyline together, I think that was a lot less effective for me personally than other elements of the story. And yet, here we are talking about the most controversial and most dynamic thing
that
that
isn't not that isn't
well,
the most controversial, I don't
what
think.
do you think is the most controversial? The
Well,
whole
we'll go over
Halbrand.
that in a future episode where we give a full season 1 report card.
Okay.
I got there's a
Oh,
comment
okay,
from
okay.
Spartan BB in the chat room watching on Twitch. It says, based on the finale, Sauron seems to have orchestrated the ocean meeting between him and Galadriel, and using her from there. I saw a lot of comments saying, what they're what's up with this chance meeting? That wasn't chance meeting. That's just, sloppy. Like what's happened? Why is Sauron in the middle of the ocean and he happens to come across a
Oh,
random woman swimming in the ocean?
it
Well,
has been
I
it's
have to
been
say I watched The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug this weekend. And
yeah.
how does this Desolation of Smaug open? Thorin is at Bree having a pint, and and Gandalf shows up and says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And even Thorin has a line that says, "This was no chance meeting, was it? You orchestrated this."
Yeah, they
Like
borrowed that line for the Rings of Power. Yeah, they borrowed that line. Yeah. Look, it is to be
so it's very Tolkien.
well, it's to be understood now in hindsight that Halbrand slash Sauron was manipulating events to be in the ocean at exactly that right point in time. But how on earth could Sauron have ever known all the things that he would have known? That Galadriel would have been on that ship at that point, and how Sauron would have known that Galadriel was going to make that binary choice and jump off of that ship and be swimming in that general direction. And the bigger fan theory is that the sea monster, the sea dragon, the sea monster itself was under the control of Sauron. And I don't even know where to go with that. I don't even know where to go with that. But it's I could have thought of different ways to get Galadriel to visit the shores of Numenor, and I'm sure that we could have put her in a different position of finding out who Anatar was, and then really distrusting him, and then trying to persuade Celebrimbor and other elven lords like the High King and maybe Elrond, but they've kept her husband off stage. We don't even know if her daughter Celebrian has been born at this point in time in the
It
story.
doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter.
There's so many things.
There's no
There's so
husband.
many.
There's no
Wait,
daughter.
It does matter, Justin, because there's so much established lore in the Second Age, and those questions
What would either
have
of
not
those
been
people,
answered.
her daughter and her husband, what would either of those characters have added to season 1?
With the presence of her own husband and her daughter, and us knowing that this is all in place,
Get your ego out of the way. What would that have served?
would have
for
served
this?
would have served mightily to create tension as the Halbrand character. If the Halbrand character wanted to come in this way and manipulate her to favor him, to help him redeem himself, which is what it was all about, It would have been much more intriguing with a lot more gravity if her husband was floating around watching all of it happen. Wow, the jealous sparks. Imagine her trying to talk and fight with Celeborn and saying, "No, Halbrand is a cool
That
guy.
adds
He's that'd be that'd be
dimension. Where
no. It would have
would
been
she
like
come across her husband? Her husband's at home. She hasn't even been back to visit Gil-galad's place, whatever that place is called.
Linden, the
Linden.
Kingdom
She hasn't even
Linden.
been back, so she wouldn't have even when does she get her telepathic powers that we see in the Council of Gandalf in the Hobbit movie? Remember when they have all the wizards and Galadriel get together and have that talk, like, what are we going to do about the necromancer?
Mhm.
And they all, like, basically zoom in. When does she get that power?
Well, that's interesting. I wonder. I wonder because in terms of the Rings of Power, it's not exhibited fully yet, except a brief sentence from Elrond about the foresight that these elves have. Elrond and Galadriel did have a gift of foresight, and I think a lot of that might be more pronounced with the rings. The Rings of Power that they have now, 3 elven rings, might greatly, greatly amplify these abilities of foresight, at
I
least within the logic of this TV series. But I don't think it has been manifest in the TV series very much, has it? I don't. I would have spent the entire season wondering what a jealous husband named Celeborn would have done while Halbrand was trying to weasel his way into a relationship with his wife, Galadriel. That would have been like that would have been a whole
having
thing.
having her husband exist in this show at this point would have made the show fail the Bechdel test, because someone at some point would have asked about her husband and it would have
Okay.
failed the Bechdel test. I am happy that he's not here, if only to frustrate you. But this show has enough going on that we don't need some marriage drama going on. Come on.
Okay. Well, what we ended up with.
Would you actually? Okay, let's play
Well,
this out. Would
let's look
you
at what we
rather?
ended up with.
Would you rather have a marriage falling apart type of plot line,
No,
or
no.
would
I
you
just
rather have
no.
what I enjoy is happening, which is a potentially single woman being courted by whoever's in front of her, courted
No.
through
I
power
I
or whatever?
I would have preferred no romantic angle at all, except a persuasive husband, perhaps Celeborn, talking to Galadriel about the behaviors of what is happening with the Elven Smiths, as all of Celebrimbor and all the great Elven Smiths, which is more than one person, that that would have been an opportunity to create more new non-canon characters for the show that had never been in the book, but just for the show. We could have had Anatar or Halbrand trying to convince these other Elven Smiths in Celebrimbor, but then the real tension would have been Galadriel and Celeborn knowing better and trying to stop Celebrimbor from making the terrible mistake that we all know he's going to make.
I'm just, look.
Well, that's what was written. Allow me to finish that thought. Tolkien wrote that. If we look at the pages, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote that story. It's in
Which
the
pages?
appendices.
Okay,
It's in the appendices. Okay, it's in the appendices. That some of the Elven lords did not trust Anatar, and that would be Gil-galad did not trust him. Elrond, half-elven, did not trust him. And Galadriel became suspicious, eventually became suspicious of him. And that's written in either Unfinished Tales or History of Middle-earth. She eventually became suspicious of him.
This
So,
is true.
so if Tolkien gives us that in the book, I thought it would have been cool to have all the drama, like Westeros. Westeros has a lot of, drama in court of the castle. So we'd be in the Elven castle, Eregion. We'd be looking at the drama of Anatar persuading and corrupting the arts of some of these Elven Smiths and Celebrimbor himself, while the other Elven lords are trying to be like, no, don't deal with this guy. Do not treat with this guy anymore. But in the Rings of Power, as it is given to us now, we went through a very, very different process of Galadriel getting up close and personal with Sauron and learning the hard way because of his constant malfeasant lie of omission. Even though people say on Twitter, literally, oh, he never lied to her. Wait. Halbrand never lied to her. I understand that it's still built on a lie of omission. And he was presenting himself as completely other than what he really was. And it was a
So does
terrible,
Gandalf.
it was a
Gandalf
terrible
does that all the
conceit.
time. He's always like
Terrible conceit.
an innocent guy that's like, "Oh, Thorin, you should go reclaim the mountain." Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, Bilbo, why don't you come
No,
on this little adventure? Like
this
they're
is Tom.
always misrepresenting. The
It
Maiar
is
are always misrepresenting their agenda.
no. Come on,
Always.
this whole
Hey,
Hal.
there's a good question. We're gonna go through some of the things that the showrunners and the writers have been saying about this show. Randy in the chat room, and I want to get your response to this, Cliff. JD and Patrick said in their interviews, and this is Randy in the chat room, said that they didn't want the audience to be 5 or 6 episodes ahead of the characters.
Okay, you'll forgive me for saying so, but I think it is incredibly useful to know that the things episodes ahead of time that the characters within the world do not know, and the audience is let in on the secret, and that is a very helpful tool.
And
It's a very helpful tool
I
for
understand.
storytelling. That's just
I
me.
as from the storyteller's perspective, I understand why. I understand that they would want that. But when it comes to this franchise, this IP, this Legendarium, this
Mm.
Tolkien isms, uh that is when you say something like, I don't want the audience to be 5 or 6 episodes ahead of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
you're you're disrespecting the audience.
Um,
You're treating us
yeah.
like you're
Mm.
playing us like a character in your play,
Mm.
and don't play the fans. We know how to have a good time, and I think this is part of the reason. The fact that they said this in an article, and thank you, Randy, for pointing that out. I feel like the showrunners have made a conscious decision to basically clear the slate. Season 1 is not just establishing Middle Earth and welcoming everybody back into this familiar land that's now
Mm-hmm.
theirs,
Mm-hmm.
which is what they keep saying in the articles, which is, yes, that is one agenda. But I do, and I want to get your opinion on this. Doesn't it feel that the showrunners have made some very laser targeted changes that just completely clear the plate and clear the table, and now there is a blank white canvas of unknowns for the most loyal fans? Like
I don't understand that assessment. I haven't seen
where
that.
do they go from here? Where do they go from here? Because they've
Well,
made
they
the
haven't.
rings out of order. They've put that out of order. That person doesn't exist. The husband doesn't exist. Where's the daughter? Why did they make the 3 elven rings first? Why are they made all at the same time? Like, things are so out of order and so like, okay, that doesn't, wait, that's not what I remember reading about and falling in love with. It's like they cleared the table. It's like, all right, this canvas is now theirs, and it's blank to us fans. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that this is a blank slate going into
No,
season 2?
no, I don't think that. No, I don't. I don't think it has given them an extra clearing, and I don't think they've given themselves an extra clearing or an opening that is unique. That's not what I sense. What I sense is a lot of confusion, my own, and my own confusion has not gotten in the way of me seeing clearly that a lot of other fans have questions about why the 7 rings and the 9 rings were not made first. And so it has left the door open to conjecture, as we are always left with, that maybe Sauron will come back to Celebrimbor under a different disguise, under a different alias, and a completely another Tom Hiddleston trick. Okay. And to be honest, when they did the thing of going into Galadriel's mind with Halbrand, Sauron going into her mind and pretending to be her brother and then pretending to be back on the raft again, it did feel a little bit like Marvel, a little bit like suddenly we're in a Marvel show where, a character is using, their
Power
scarlet
and
witchcraft
trick.
just to do
Yeah.
a just oh we're in, or it was like very Star Trek where we're in a different hologram, and then bam, we're in a different hologram. It was a little bit Star Trek just in that moment, because why? It is a trope, it is a cliche now at this point of television writing. It is a commonly
I get it.
used trope. So but holy
Aaron
moly.
Aaron in the chat room, Aaron Dunbar says, that's something PJ does so well is he assumes the best of his audience.
Mm,
So
yes,
do I
well,
have so Cliff, do I have a misreading? Do you feel that the showrunners are treating the fans as well as we deserve?
honestly, to be quite honest, I think that the fandom did not have its major expectations met, and that was that we were going to get the political intrigue of established character Anatar weaseling his way into different relationships with different powerful elven characters. Instead, we get a crash course of a Maiar spirit pretending to be something that is not, trying to completely dupe a character who knows better, she knows better, but they
But how do
also
you feel as a fan? Do you feel you're being talked down to with these changes? Like,
talked down to
I,
as
wrong
a
word.
as a as a as a Tolkien fan, as a big time Tolkien fan, I feel like I was given a lot of fan service, but I was not given uh the real deal. I wasn't given the potatoes. Okay, you know what? I got a lot of quail sauce, but I wanted the meat and I wanted it raw. I just got a lot of quail sauce. How about that? Do you guys know where I'm going with that? Okay. I wanted and should have thought we were going to get established, like slow brewing relationship between Celebrimbor and Sauron, deliberately trying to steer him wrong, and other people trying to raise the alarm bells. But we didn't get that. And that was what Tolkien wrote. Professor Tolkien gave us the entire vertebrae of the story of what happens in the Second Age. And in episode 8, I felt that it was very rushed, and it wasn't entirely earned. It wasn't entirely earned because it felt so rushed. Suddenly, Gil-galad is leaving, and Elrond is pleading, give me 3 more months. Please, just give me 3 more months. And I thought to myself, what about a whole century of time? What about the time that, that they were really, really there? What I felt like that, look at the death, the really tragic death of Sir Lenny Henry's character, Sadok Burrows. I don't,
Man,
I don't,
you lost me,
I
guys.
don't, I
You
don't think
know he
that,
was my favorite actor
and
in the
I don't
show.
think, I don't think that death was earned. That death was
No,
not earned. It didn't feel earned, and that's the same stuff that we're falling into with
I'm
making these 3 rings in a
also
rush.
I am
It
so
didn't feel earned.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad that you had just established that this Maiar spirit or Istari uh can whisper at a dead tree that's been burned by fire and make an orchard appear. You just established that this Istari has the power of life and healing. You just established that. And not 42 minutes later, he stands there and watches the Harfoot die?
And isn't they?
You broke your own lore. You
I thought that he was going to breathe life into Sadok Burrows. I
yeah,
actually,
you
for about 30 seconds before I realized, oh, they're really going to kill him off. And I thought, oh, they're really going to kill him off?
Shout out to staffer Green Dragon, who the minute Lenny Henry was cast, she said that he was stunt casting and he would die by the end of the first season. She got it right. She
Wow.
she got it right.
Wow.
Uh, I am offended that death wasn't earned.
It was not earned. Nope.
And first off, that character should not have been there because Poppy's dad gives this big rousing speech about sticking together and supporting us, and then she says, "I'm leaving, Dad." And rather than Dad saying, "I will come with you because I just gave a big speech about sticking together," Sadok breaks character and says, the same Sadok that had 3 episodes earlier said, "Leave the weak behind, let the wolves get them," suddenly leaves the tribe to support Poppy and this big tall man that he doesn't even like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the dad. First off, the dad should have gone with Poppy, and the dad should have died, and Poppy would have been more emotionally distraught, and that was a much bigger dynamic. Instead, Sadok was there. Obviously, Sadok is well learned, and you've just established that Meteor Man has healing powers. And he just stood there watching Sadok die. I'm like, this.
Well, now
that character shouldn't have been there, and that death is unearned. And I can
agree.
go on and on and on, but we've got.
I agree, but
so
I mean,
much more.
There's a deliberate. Now I have in case
Nori,
you don't know
not
this,
just Poppy. Nori. I meant Nori.
and
You know, guys
you meant
know
Nori,
what I mean.
right? I have we have some very good friends of the One Ring and Tolkien scholar extraordinaire David Chambers, who's a good friend who I've invited to have a conversation and join us at any point in time. And we also have other people in the live chat who are tremendous insights. We get really great insights from all of you folks, and it's wonderful to have you chatting and sharing these ideas with us. Eravandi said that the stranger might not know of his full abilities to heal. And I'm like, okay, maybe he doesn't know yet.
He just whispered to a tree to create an orchard. He just whispered to a tree,
and I'm just trying to say, basically,
why didn't he just try? Why didn't he just
try? Why didn't he try? Just try.
I have no expectations on this character. I'm going by what the show has told me about this character. So I appreciate that. There's a few people in the chat, and I just want to clear this up. First off, any comment about the showrunners not knowing the lore and not knowing Tolkien, let's just put that to rest. We all know that these guys live and breathe Tolkien. They got the job because they were known all around town as uber fans of Tolkien. And J.J. Abrams is the one that called Jeff Bezos and Amazon and said, "Hey, these guys are the guys. Like, you know, they know their Tolkien." Simon Tolkien, the Simon himself, said, "All right, you guys know what you're talking about. I can work with this. I can work with these guys." So but they and then the other comment. So let's just put that to rest. These guys know Tolkien. They are making strategic decisions for their television show, as all adaptations would have to make decisions.
And given that foreknowledge, it makes it a little bit frustrating for me to have now found myself in this position of really wanting to love. I really wanted to love this show more than I found myself resisting some of the internal logic of the characters' situations. And I wanted to let all that stuff go. And there were many times when I did. And I will say the most successful parts of the series are when it told a beautifully put together story, a story with thematic. And like I said, they did approach this whole series unironically with a real eye for beauty. And I'll give them all the credit in the world for having such a clear vision of what they wanted to do.
100%. They are committed to the vision.
Yep, they're committed to it, and they're committed to their vision.
And they've executed on it, bar none, better than anybody.
Yes, that is true. They have. But I'm struggling with some of the inconsistencies of what Tolkien gave us on the printed page versus some of the jumping through loops and hoops of contrivances of storytelling to get characters around into things
Cliff, you'll
like we
like
got.
this comment. I want to laugh out loud. Ha ha! Because Adelante in the chat room says Peter Jackson's adaptation were 95% to the letter of Tolkien.
Not
Boy,
really.
wait till you read
Not
about
really.
Two Towers. Two Towers book
Not really.
and movie have nothing to do with each other. That is the funniest. That's the funniest thing I've read in this chat all day.
So, do you know how interesting it is? I don't think there is much of their fantasy or science fiction that I would watch as a TV show and have such a personal problem of disentangling myself from foreknowledge of what is there. It's kind of like this type of storytelling for people is probably most effective for the non-fans. Would you venture that they're probably succeeding with people really absorbing and appreciating the TV series if they're not the hardest of hardcore lore masters? Would you think there's maybe an equivalence of some kind? Because I wonder it myself, and perhaps we can leave this as an open conversation with all of our people here in the live chat with us. But let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll ask you, Justin, as well. What is it about our attachment to J.R.R. Tolkien that is in such a degree that when there's a version, a radio, BBC radio, or an animation, or even a video game, or a big TV show, we're always really coming to the table with much more of us holding our personal attachments than we would say with an adaptation of some other story. I mean, what is it about that? Because I had to work hard. Sometimes I had to take layers of my own understanding off the table just so I could relax into the show and appreciate it as a piece of television
Well, I
entertainment.
feel fortunate. I am not burdened with that because I had the best time watching the Hobbit movies in the theater. I remember walking out of the Theater of Desolation of
Yeah.
Smaug with you,
Yes.
and you were
Yeah.
so angry. You were
You
so
had a very
angry
different mood. You were in a very different
that
mood than I was. Yes.
yeah. I had the best time, and even
Yes.
watching it on TBS this weekend, the theatrical cut, pan and scan with commercials. Probably the worst way you could watch Desolation of Smaug. I still did not turn away. I had a great time watching it. I had a great time at Two Towers. I had a great time with all of these movies because I'm not burdened with that. Like, I know the books exist and I might have read them here or there, whatever, but I'm going in to have a good time. All I'm interested in is having a good time in front of my television at this
See?
point.
Well,
And
then you were in a more
I'm not.
liberated state of mind. You were
Yeah.
more liberated, I think.
So why am I not having a? Why did I not have a great time with season 1 of Rings of Power? Did I have a good time? I feel like I have to go back and binge this show. Maybe I'll spend next weekend binging just all weekend long. Just to get round 2 over with and get through it. Maybe I'll have a better time. But there's a lot of things right now where I'm just kind of like, we didn't even need to go to Numenor in season 1. It almost would have been better to introduce Numenor in season 2, kind of like how they introduced Rohan in episode 2 or Two Towers, whatever you want to call it. I didn't even know Rohan existed or there were
Mm-hmm.
horse lords until Two Towers showed me. And I don't know. I have to do a revisit of this show. But
Do you think it
before
would have been better if you binged it all at once? Let's come back to that
yes.
weird theory. Let's now theorize in hindsight. Let's just say, and I'll ask everybody in the live chat, do you think that you would have digested everything better if you'd have binged all these episodes in quick succession, maybe like a couple of afternoons side by side?
We've talked about that on the show the last
I
8 weeks.
I think I would have enjoyed it. Yeah.
This show feels like it was meant to be binged.
Yeah, I think so. Why not? I would have taken a shine to it more, and I wouldn't have struggled with it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I would have been like, oh, I've gotten to the point of story resolution where I can literally get in my head what they were trying to do. And for all of the Silmarillion fans, Justin, I think this whole Halbrand and Galadriel thing is really a tip of the hat to the Silmarillion fans who know all these details about a Maiar and an elf who decide to not separate from one another, but to combine their interests in the world. And I think that is a reflection, genuinely, of what they were trying to do with these two characters. Not that I really love it. I didn't love this idea, but it is mildly intriguing. I will give you that. It's mildly intriguing.
It feels like they were told up front that Amazon will
Mm.
drop all episodes at once. And then in the 5 years between starting production and putting it on TV, a decision was made to, like, you know what, let's space this out. Let's do weekly episodes on Friday nights at midnight, and
Mm-hmm.
it feels different. So going into season 2, and we've got some amazing pictures for you right now. Going
Okay.
into season 2, my suggestion from the top down, from the studio level, saying commit to either a binge thing or commit to the weekly releases. And if you're committed to the weekly releases, tell the writers right now so they can rewrite. Because some of these writers, Jennifer Hutchinson from Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and X-Files, absolutely know how to write thrilling, captivating stories per episode.
Mm-hmm.
So unleash the power of Jennifer Hutchinson on an episodic tale instead of a binge watching tale. Cliff, we've got so much exciting stuff right here. We just posted at the onering.net. If you go to the onering.net after the show, or you can go right now and follow along, we've got new leaked pics of the set. Turns out Hankley Common is in Surrey, which is west southwest of London. Is probably an hour and a half outside of London, and someone spotted this stone, which happens to have some runes on it, and there are pictures of sets that are all burnt out. Look at this. This is
Oh, wow.
a burnt out set. So it gives me a vibe of Mordor. You can imagine that in post production they will make the skies red, and the the tint of the skies red, and all the filming. So this is exciting. This is filming right now. Supposedly this set is booked through the end of next week. So if you guys are in Surrey, Hankley Common, right? Hankley Common in Surrey. I believe we have a video of it too. Um, so you can see some giant cranes. There's horseback. So there's someone on a horse there. Oh wow, this must be actual filming. That crane is holding up a lighting grid, or could be holding up a water grid for some rain. But it looks like there are a bunch of extras on the left hand side. There are a lot of people on the left hand side of that frame. You can see them walking around. That has
That's a good
anyone
question. Good question. Has anyone translated those runes yet? What an excellent question.
that I believe someone in our Discord, again, the best place to be for Rings of Power conversation is in our Discord, because all this stuff gets posted there as soon as someone uploads it, and then it gets translated pretty quickly. So yes, I believe someone in the Discord has translated it. And then you guys will remember a few weeks ago we shared these photos of the set in Bray near Windsor Castle, right near Windsor. We have updated photos just posted to Reddit. Look at this beautiful set.
My.
Looks like these are two different sets going on. There is not meant to be a camera walkway uh, uh, between us. So between the two sets. So these are two different sets. Um,
Wow. Okay.
this is the one with the circle. This looks like a Numenor set. Uh, I mean, it is very water based. Uh, it looks like there's going to be a water feature. Um, Usually, when they put tarps down like that, that's going to be where there's going to be an environmental effect, as we like to call. If we zoom in, uh, Cliff, this definitely looks like Numenor architecture as we've known it.
Wow. Yeah, it sure does. No, that's Elven. Those arches are Elven. Sorry. I,
Is
I'm
is
going to I'm going to speculate that we're looking at the city of Ost in Ithil
Where is that? And
in Eregion. That's where they are forging rings.
okay, so this is the area where they're forging rings. You think this is Elvish?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, you might be right. Look at those background Elvish doors. You don't think this is Numenor at all?
No, I think that's Ost in Ithil in Eregion.
Last one in the chat room says I feel like it could be Elven. Or is there an Elven influenced Numenor?
Well, there might be some architecture in the area. Yeah, there might be some architecture that's very specifically um
Western Numenor?
yeah, in the far, far western Numenor, where the faithful would have kept more closely their relationship with the Valinor and the traditions of worshiping the Valar.
Yeah.
Excuse me, the Valar. Yeah. Hmm. So that might be Eregion, that might be Ost Inethil, but it might be any structures that represent elvish influence on the far, far, far western shores of Numenor. So that's possible.
It
Oh,
does.
someone says in the chat it might be Pelargir. Well, that's a lovely idea. It might be. It
What's
might be Pelargir.
Pelargir?
That's another. It's another place in Middle Earth.
Okay.
Okay,
So yeah, a lot of inlaid stone
that's
and
brilliant. The runes translated say treat the fans better. That's brilliant, Letitia. That's brilliant. Treat the fans better. You know, well,
so
I do understand that because after all these years of waiting and waiting and waiting, and it was all this not knowing, and we were all kept in the dark, and all of it amounted to some very interesting approaches. But if we had, if we had been let in the door of, sparking conversation and ideas about these characters a long time before, I think the dynamic quality of the fandom right now might be different in general. Maybe.
yeah.
Yes, I do get that. I do get that.
And then one more
That's
photo
funny.
from remember that set early on. If we go back to what we showed you, remember this
Oh yeah.
early set? We thought, oh, this might be just another orc cave, right?
Mhm.
Well, this is it further down the line, and this is most definitely an orc encampment. Um,
Ooh.
there is trees and roots, and there are the overhangs. So if uh, do you I he's already clouded the skies, so they wouldn't need to hide under canopies anymore. So why do you think this would be uh, a major set? I mean, they're really building it. They're really
It is.
building
That's
it.
amazing. Oh, holy cow.
They're really building this out. I mean, lots of trees, lots of roots,
That's really
entries to
something.
caves. Um, Unless they're digging out. Oh, there is a house and a hut. Maybe they're digging out a human encampment.
Ooh, maybe.
Is this a tree that Arondir chopped into?
I wonder. Do you know what? There's someone in the chat, and thank you for this intriguing idea, Finrod. Finrod84 is thinking, well, if Meteor Man and Nori are wandering around in Greenwood, if they happen to go there, maybe they could bump into younger Thranduil. And I thought to myself immediately, maybe at this point in time, they might meet Thranduil's father, Orifer. And that would be Orifer would be Legolas's granddad. His grandfather would be Orifer. So that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? But
Man, that will be the most beautiful person casted in this show.
I'm wondering if they're going to keep going east, and if Nori takes the stranger east and he learns what his real name is, and we ultimately figure out that it's one of the blue wizards. I'm along with Matt, Nerd of the Rings, in really hoping that in season 2 the door is still open for the stranger to be one of the blue wizards. I really am hoping for that.
Although he does say, Cliff, he does say one of his final line in season 1 is, "I follow my nose," which is exactly what Gandalf says.
It is, and that's. Do you know some people are getting tired of that? They're like, "Why are you repurposing all of these familiar bits verbatim from Peter Jackson's movies?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a nice touch of fan service, but at what point does it become overplayed?" And so, let's put that question to you. Let's put that out.
I would be having a much better time with that whole plot line if you just came out up front, and said he was a Astari, a Maiar, a Lorin, or something. Tell us that it's Gandalf, and we will have a great time. We will have a much better time. But wrapping him up in a mystery box is not fun. It just isn't.
Like you did with Halbrand. It's
based on what some of the things that the showrunners have been saying, I understand why they did that with Halbrand, because he does deceive a lot of people, and he is a man of many faces, and everything like that. And now it has been established that he can take many forms. And a lot of the fangirls on Twitter say that is a very fair form. But this idea of wrapping
Vickers. Oh yeah, the fangirls are going in for Charlie Vickers. I get it. I totally get that.
He's Gandalf. He's Gandalf. Okay, folks, and Justin, trying to retcon.
Have you heard? Have you heard that there's a licensing issue? That Halbrand is the name they had to use because Anatar was not even available to them. Have any of your little spies in your network of spies?
No, okay, they can absolutely use Anatar.
Oh, so they can use that name.
So we've actually got some quotes from the showrunners about what they can use. So right now, they say Patrick McKay confirms it. Season 2 will be bigger and better on every level by an order of magnitude. It will take a couple of years to complete season 2, which aligns with other rumors we've been hearing from other folks saying that the release date is tentatively scheduled for Labor Day 2024. So we're 2 years away. So we're 2 years away. So that's it. Lindsay Weber, the producer on the show, says these first few days are kind of a luxury for us because we're just beginning and the guys are still writing, polishing the scripts for season 2. Now, Cliff, this is new news because
it's a contradiction.
We were told that season 2 was written 2 years ago.
It's a contradiction. Were we not? Yep, that's right. And you've spotted it. You have spotted the contradiction. And I don't know what to make of it, really. Except maybe it is standard industry practice to revisit and take what you had written and then take a little bit of the feedback that you've gotten and the notes that you're getting. And maybe it is not unusual at all for them to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite
Well, if you go back to the Peter
and rewrite.
Jackson appendices of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, him, Philippa, and Fran were constantly rewriting during production. So why should we be surprised?
Yes, they can use the word Anatar for sure. So we know for sure, and we cannot report otherwise, that there's a legal breakdown in them using the name Anatar. I'm just
So
trying to answer our friends in the chat.
I have another quote from Patrick to what you just said, Cliff.
Yes, please. Let's see it. Let's see it.
Patrick McKay says, "We not that we aren't paying attention to the response the show is having.
Right.
I don't know how you could shut it out. But the second season has been written for some time now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's
And
right.
the storytelling grows and goes in different directions. That is
Right.
informed by what we learned on season 1 on our own. There are things that seem to really work and others that didn't work as well as we might have hoped."
And
This,
is that a vague reference to the mystery boxing that became so tiresome?
the story, well, I think he's alluding to that because he says the storytelling will be different next time, not
Right.
because of the response to the show, but because of the experience making the show.
You know what?
Your reaction, guys. It's okay to say you're listening. Please, please,
Yeah.
Amazon, get it. Please, guys, please, just
Can I
say you're listening.
can I just say, yeah, please?
Humble,
There's
humble.
there's
Be
there's
humble.
there's a distinct lack of humility in that statement that rubs me the wrong way, honestly. It's just that's a bit strange.
It,
It's a bit strange.
I get.
It's a bit strange.
Look, I get what they're saying. Okay,
Just a bit.
I get
Well,
what they're
yeah,
saying.
of course.
And
Of course. Yeah, we're not there. We're not there. And of course, we were not there to experience this organic process that took them to the direction that they went. However, no man is an island, and no billion-dollar TV show is made in a vacuum, independent of
and here's
all
the
of
thing.
us fans out here saying we like the dramatic irony. We don't like the mystery boxing.
Exactly. So look, the only job that these guys have ever had in Hollywood was punching up scripts for J.J. Abrams. They've been working for J.J. Abrams for a dozen years now, right? On projects. I'm sure they touched the Star Wars scripts. I don't know. They know that they touched the Star Trek script, but
is that a bad robot holdover? Is that like it's our trademark to wrap things up on the audience?
Well,
figure it out?
That's what fans know Bad Robot as being.
Yeah.
The Lost and everything like that. But Bad Robot also did Westworld season 1. So anyway, what I'm saying is,
okay, yeah.
You might
I'd like
have
to use that as an example more often, by the way. That's a great thing to use as a contrasting example where the audience knows exactly who is an android and knows the dramatic irony while the characters on screen do not know what they're getting into. That's an excellent example of that. But please don't let me interrupt you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to complete the thought and saying you to quote that other franchise, you might have to unlearn what you have learned.
Okay.
So if these guys have come from the J.J. Abrams school of fanboy writing, where fanboys love mystery boxes, we don't. It began and ended with Lost. Okay, that was a home run, right? But the sudden reveal of Sauron at the end of this season. It is nowhere near the sudden reveal at the end of season 1 of Westworld. And I know that you guys were trying to go for that. And because the season 1 Westworld thing happened, and then everybody was like, wow, I need to go watch the season. I need to go watch the whole season over because I like, how did I not get that? We did get that. We got that the minute Halbrand showed up, and you said, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Well, things are not always what they seem." It's like you spoiled it on his introduction. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, I think that they just got too wrapped up in the mystery boxes. It's okay to
Yep.
say from the get-go,
Yes.
like, this is Gandalf, that's Sauron. Let's have an adventure. Let's have an adventure as the viewer and watch the drama unfold. I think
I have
a lot.
I
That's a
have
lot of the frustrations from fans right now that I'm seeing.
I agree. How about that? You and me in complete alignment on this series, on this show. Justin, did you know that there's a linguistic issue that I have with the Istar? The fact is that the actual word and the concept of the Istari arriving in Middle Earth would not have happened until the Third Age, thousands of years later.
That's
than
wrong, because we've talked about this. That there is Tolkien lore that confirms that the Istari were sent earlier in the ages.
there was
Every time evil started gaining
well,
power,
we have
and
to
they were
remind
called different things.
we have to remind ourselves that Tolkien never settled on it. And he changed his mind and he went back to revisit it and revisit it. And he kept revisiting things, but it wasn't solidified into a final decision.
Right.
But still, what
So-
is in the appendix, what's in the Lord of the Rings, is that the Istari were known in the Third Age. So I found myself scratching my head about how these mystics, who are followers of Morgoth, followers of Sauron, that they would come all the way from the far lands of Hrun and would know the word Istar. I mean, linguistically, I think that word is showing up in the mouths of these characters thousands of years early. But that's my opinion, just one man's opinion. But it is true.
We have
It is
another
true that
quote
he did revisit the idea of the Blue Wizards. Yes, he did revisit that idea.
He was constantly revisiting this stuff in this
Yes.
period. In
Yeah.
fact, the Second Age is the blankest of slates.
Or
JD
the least cohesive. It's the least cohesive in terms of stuff he was writing. Yeah.
JD Payne says, "We are certainly listening to the critics and to our audiences. You don't want to give any one voice too much weight, but figure out what people are responding to in the aggregate. I don't know if I want to point to any specifics."
Right.
So, is what do you feel, Cliff, from your perspective as a member of the One Ring community and active on Twitter and everything? What is the aggregate saying?
Well, the aggregate is, pretty much like what we were talking about when we did a report card halfway through the season. Aren't we going to do a complete full season report card? Are we doing that now, today, or is that next week when we do that?
We'll probably do it next week. Yeah,
Right, because that's what you're asking. You were asking me now, and I'm going to tell you that the aggregate is.
Yeah,
let's hold it until we do that.
Let's hold it until the report card, because, and folks, that's my homework this weekend. I'm going to binge watch season 1 and come to a fresh opinion. I will say this, that I've got it right here on screen. In 1590, the 3 rings are completed in Eregion. And then in 1600, Sauron forges the 1 ring in Orodruin, the Mount Doom. He completes Barad-dûr that same year, and only then does Celebrimbor perceive the designs of Sauron.
Yes, that's right. Only then, when it's by the time he makes the 1 ring. Yes.
So Celebrimbor, according to the text, according to Tolkien's text, is not supposed to know or perceive that it's Sauron.
Nope.
Until the creation of the 1 ring of power.
Basically, until it's way too late. It's way too late at that point. Yeah, that's when Celebrimbor becomes aware.
So, I don't know. I did not know this going into the episode 8. It felt dirty that Galadriel knew that was Sauron and did not speak up right there.
And so did Elrond. Elrond found the parchment in the water, and so he also realized the same thing, and he's standing there looking at her, and she's looking back at him with those meaningful looks in their eyes,
So
and they're not telling Celebrimbor
so
who he really is.
Is Celebrimbor, according to Tolkien's text, Celebrimbor is going to stay ignorant for the entire series?
Yep, until it's too late. That's part of the tragedy of his character. Yeah,
I don't like
yeah, he's ignorant of it.
I don't like that setup.
Well, do you know that's the way Tolkien wrote it, and I'm happy with it. Do you know what I find problematic? Now we have this artificial reason that Galadriel knows and will not tell. She knows that that guy Halbrand was Sauron, but because of her potential embarrassment, even Halbrand literally puts her on the hook and says, "What will they say? What will they say when they find out that Sauron came back to power because of you, Galadriel? Dun dun dun." And so now suddenly she gets blackmailed into keeping his dirty secret and
Yeah.
not telling Celebrimbor. I don't get that at all. I don't understand where that is supposed to go.
And
in light of things
we also
the way we know
pull
it.
from, I think this was from I think this is from one of the books. Let's see. In Lindon, Gil-galad shut out Sauron's emissaries and even Sauron himself. So Gil-galad said, "Hold your roll. We don't want any of that here." But Sauron had better fortune with the Noldor of Eregion, and especially with Celebrimbor, who desired in his heart to rival the skill and fame of Feanor.
Do you know what we didn't get? What Tolkien wrote on that page is something I thought we were going to get in this TV series, and we didn't. We didn't get Anatar, even if he was just Halbrand, showing up to talk, at the front gate of Lindon, and to go to talk to the High King, Gil-galad, and all of his emissaries, which would have included Elrond. We didn't get that. And that's a pretty basic honest, let me just say, it's a pretty basic and honest way to gauge my own disappointment. And if I do have to say, hey, I enjoyed the Rings of Power, but I still had a lot of disappointment with the Rings of Power, that is the thing I would point at. That's exactly what I would point at. We did not get what Tolkien wrote on the page that was the most straightforward piece of storytelling that we could have gotten.
We'll go into that deeper when we do our report card for season 1.
Okay.
Moving on to season 2 again. Let's look at what these guys are doing for season 2. Patrick McKay says, like Tony Soprano or Walter White, Sauron is evil, but complexly evil.
Yeah.
We felt that if we did that in season 1, he'd overshadow everything else. So why did you show Sauron in episode 1?
The first words out of his mouth were, "Looks can be deceiving."
Right, you spoiled it at the anyway.
Yeah, and then it was the first words of dialogue that Halbrand said out of his mouth.
Patrick goes on to say, the first season is like Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight is the next movie, with Sauron maneuvering out in the open. So first off, to quote Top Gun, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash. Okay, remember, the bad guy in The Dark Knight is not even in Batman Begins. And remember, Batman is unrecognizable in The Dark Knight. First off, they destroyed his home, so he's living in a tower. The Batcave is just like some modernist white light cave. That was really weird. Like nothing from Batman Begins relates to The Dark Knight at all. There's no connection. I mean, there is a little cameo of Scarecrow, but it is literally a cameo. Season 2, Patrick McKay says, season 2 has a canonical story. There may be viewers who are like, this is the story we were hoping to get in season 1. In season 2, we're giving it to them.
Really? Why don't you repeat that one more time? Because that might be worth saying again. Oh, there it is. You have it on the screen. All right, there you go.
Well, yeah, let me repeat it.
All right. Yeah, this is the point.
Patrick McKay is telling us, we expect that there will be viewers who say, this is the story we were hoping to get in season 1. In season 2, we're giving it to them.
And then I have to say, why the bloody hell didn't we get it in season 1? Because you would have more concretely guaranteed your audience attachment.
Well,
You would have guaranteed a much more audience affection, because right now the audience affection is something of a mixed bag. While people are at the point of great admiration, really admiring the show, but not willing to let themselves fall in love with it because of the one note dark temperament of Galadriel versus the weird subterfuge of Sauron, which was only to placate the urge of the writers to mystery box this whole damn thing instead of giving us the open information and the
just
dramatic
give us
irony.
the information.
Just give us the information.
But curiously, as a follow up, McKay says, if season 2 will retell Sauron's history and how he got to where he's at, McKay says, I would say that those are all good questions, and questions need answering. So hopefully those are new layers of the onion we can peel back. The question to McKay, again, let's go to the picture-in-picture. Deadline asks McKay if season 2 will retell Sauron's history. And he says, those are good questions, and questions need answering. Hopefully those are new layers of the onion we can peel back. Cliff, let me propose.
Okay, here we go.
That in these statements, in these 2 statements, where he says, in season 2, we're giving you the story you were hoping to get in season 1. And season 2, we are possibly retelling Sauron's history. Let me propose, Cliff, that the 3 rings that we have just seen created are actually the last rings to be created. And what if season 2 is Sauron's story told from his perspective? How he got to the raft.
Maybe.
How he got to a point in his ring making. He hit a wall and he needed to do something. And he found a way to sense the power of the elves. And he found a way to poison that tree. And he knew that he had to get to Celebrimbor. What if season 2 is a flashback? It's a constant series of flashbacks. As Mount Doom becomes Mordor, as the Southlands become Mordor, and the orcs and Adar are doing their thing and creating a culture, what if Sauron begins to tell us his story? It's basically season 2 becomes Sauron's prequel to season 1.
If that happens, then they've just neutered all the stuff that Halbrand did in this opening season.
But we've already seen this season, so.
But if that's what they're going to do, then that neuters the reason why they needed to do any of the stuff with Sauron here. Look, the stuff that seems so far-fetched is that Halbrand had such a quickly accelerated relationship with Celebrimbor. That missed so many story opportunities where Anatar...
Could they fix that? Could they fix that where he takes another visage and Celebrimbor has a professional relationship with another person?
That could be
Sauron.
Another version of him. Yeah, sure. But
and
guess
then
what?
They have a falling out, and he has to get back in.
If Sauron had any truth to what he was saying to Galadriel on the raft when he was in her mind, if there was any truth, Justin, that he really wanted to have Galadriel help pull him back from the darkness and bring him towards the light, proverbially speaking, then then why all this? Why all this other subterfuge? It all screams of lies.
The chat room wants to see one episode dedicated to his backstory. Don't make it the whole season. Just give us a nice, contrite, the world from Sauron's perspective, the history of Middle Earth from Sauron's perspective. Kind of like episode 1 was the history of Middle Earth from Galadriel's perspective.
It's an interesting
Wouldn't
approach.
episode
Yeah.
1 of season 2 be really interesting if the history of Middle Earth retold from Sauron's perspective, and you set the stage
That could be
for
cool.
Sauron to be Tony Soprano and Walter White, guys that we know that are evil,
Yep.
but have a positive goal for their nastiness.
Yep. I
Like,
wonder. Well, it is. It's just exhausting to think that, we're going to go through another season of The Stranger or another major character, not revealing themselves until the next. I'll just say this: the next time Anatar shows up on screen, I want it to be telegraphed with a big neon sign that he is who he said
trust
that
the
he
fans.
that he is Anatar.
Yeah, trust the fans that we're going to have a good time knowing.
Yes.
Don't try to outsmart us, okay?
Yes.
Focus on telling a great story. Do not focus on trying to outsmart the fans that have been reading Tolkien for 80 years.
Thank you.
Please. Please, no more mysteries.
Thank you.
Tell us what's going on, because this wasn't fun. The reveal of Sauron wasn't fun. Although I did like the Evanescence meme that went around, if you guys saw that.
That was funny. Yeah.
Galantaliel in the chat room says, I like the multiple storylines so far. Yes, I'd like the multiple storylines. In fact, and this is the problem with the internet, right? Notice that for the last 8 weeks, we have not talked about the dwarves much, because it's just so good. It's exactly what it needed to be. It's exactly it's so good. It's perfect. We don't need to talk about it. So there's something interesting that the internet discourse has to focus on all the negatives, and unless you're Varking. And he runs a subreddit, and he it's a positive place where you can talk about dwarves all day long.
I'll tell you what,
we almost take Khazad-dûm
this is where
for granted.
I miss Varking, because I would like to talk about Khazad-dûm. We have not talked about how much I missed Durin and Disa and Elrond in episode 8. I missed all of Khazad-dûm so much in episode 8. We haven't talked about that. You know what? Let's just say the greatest strength that the show has going for it is all pocketed up in that little ecosystem with those characters. It's wonderful. It's the best stuff.
A final quote about season 2. Producer Lindsay Weber says season 2 is fundamentally different in that our main villain is out and about and doing his thing. In some ways, season 2 is going to be grittier, more intense, and maybe a little scarier.
Okay.
There are things that we saved that we were going to do in the final bit of season 1 that we thought, it's just too big right now to fit that in with everything else. Let's save it for season 2.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
That's intriguing.
I hope they are listening to the fans. I hope they know how to filter out the noise. I hope they are paying attention to the characters that fans are loving. Do not kill Adar in the first episode.
Adar.
Yes,
Adar.
Remember in Breaking Bad, right? Who are the two main characters in Breaking Bad? Jesse and Walter. According to the original showrunners, the showrunners of Breaking Bad, Jesse was supposed to die in season 1, but
Oh, yeah.
he was such a fan favorite. Everybody that watched the show fell in love with Jesse so immediately that they kept him on through the whole series and then gave him his own spin-off movie. Right?
They did. How about that?
Adar. Everyone is falling in love with that dude. So, whatever plans you had, Lindsay just said you guys are rewriting and punching up season 2 scripts. Let's take that fan feedback into consideration.
Wouldn't that
Don't
be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing if he becomes the most powerful of all the Nazgul and he becomes the Witch King of Angmar? That would be super cool. To keep that character around for that long and to keep the character in that high level of importance. It looks like if it is going to go in that direction, that Adar has some issues that he needs to work out with Sauron. I think this is a really intriguing idea. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and then and a final note about season 2. The Jennifer Salke, the head of Amazon Studios, says we want to keep the bar just as high, so it'll take what it takes budget wise. There is some urgency around moving quickly. So the good thing is they've got the full financial resources of Amazon are full on back on season 2. They haven't slashed the budgets. They are fully committed. Yeah, no matter what the ratings are, whether Game of Thrones is doing better or Andor is doing better or She-Hulk did better, it doesn't matter. They the budgets are still, they are what they are, and they're going to spend what it takes to keep season 2 looking like season 1, and that can only be a good thing.
It is the most gorgeous thing on television. That's easy. The Rings of Power is, oh, hands down, the most beautiful, and it looks and sounds beautiful, and a great triumphant bit of work with Bear McCreary. It's the most beautiful thing on television. But, you know, in terms of the writing and the way that they're adapting Tolkien, it's a bit rough around the edges, I think. And it's interesting. All the stuff that we just read about them reworking and revising things in season 2, or even attempting to retell things from Sauron. Do you think that's an admission of guilt? Perhaps in a tacit, quiet way, an admission of guilt that some things in season 1 were not up to snuff? What do you think?
I don't think anything was not up to snuff. The decisions were made full throated. They screamed these decisions with their full force of their pocketbooks and their lungs and their creative visions. Nothing felt cheapened or half baked. Nothing felt half baked. The creative decisions that we are not digging were not halfway there. They committed to them fully.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I get that. Yes.
So you know, and so adaptation is just the choice of the creators that get to be in control. So
Indeed.
yeah.
So where do I get one of those shirts, Justin?
I don't know. These things just appear on my doorstep. Look, I don't want to leave you guys out. But folks, we have exclusive Rings of Power. I thought these were postcards.
I got one too here.
But Cliff,
they're stickers. They're stickers.
Check this out. They're stickers. Let me see if I can.
Really lovely. I hope the camera's.
Yeah, these are stickers.
Really nice. This is
nice. And so you can cut out. You can see right there that you can cut. You can pull off the vinyl sticker and put it on your car, on the back of your laptop.
Yeah.
Anywhere you put stickers.
Definitely on the back of your laptop. This is a cool sticker for the back of your laptop for sure.
So check it out, folks.
Yeah.
I have a bunch. So
are you gonna give them away somehow?
I'm gonna give them away. So
nice.
What I want you to do, we're gonna think of a way to give these out next week when we do our season 1 report card on Rings of Power. So your your
Okay.
homework for your finals, for the finals. Your homework this week is to binge watch season 1 again. Like maybe you do 4 episodes on Saturday, and maybe you do 4 episodes on Sunday. But there are 7 days now between it. But don't do 7 episodes over 7 days. You need to binge. I'm like do 2 sittings of binging. Okay,
I
and
think
like
you could binge it all over a day and a half. Over a day and a half, you could binge it
you know
all.
what? Let me
Yeah.
split. Let me change that. Let me split that up. Episode 1 and 2 binge
Yeah,
because that is a complete thought, right?
it is. Yeah.
And then episode 3, 4, 5 binge.
Hmm.
That is
Yeah.
a complete thought.
And then 6, 7, 8.
And then episode 6, 7, 8. That's a complete thought.
So you watch 2 and then 3 and then 3, and there you've got it. That's your binge settings.
2, 3, 3,
Okay.
4, or if you've got a lot of laundry to fold and dishes to do, just do all 8. That's what I'm gonna do this weekend. I'm just saving all my chores,
That's fine.
household chores. That's the assignment because I feel that
Okay.
I might have a new appreciation for the show now that we can watch it in context and we're not burdened with like frustration of like just tell us.
Yeah.
And I hope the folks at Amazon are listening, and I hope the showrunners are listening because the writers are some of the best in the business, but the decisions that are being made that we don't like right now are top of the tower decisions made
Mhm.
from the leadership. These guys have decided to go a certain way, certain plot points, and
Yeah.
I think my
Yep.
prediction, based on everything we just said, my big prediction right now for season 2 is this isn't even Green Dragon Gothic. This is just my prediction. My
Okay.
prediction is everything we saw in season 1 is is post what we're going to see in season 2. I think that the 3 elven rings are not the first rings to be made.
Oh, really?
I think other rings have been made already. We're going to see that
I think that
in
Hal
flashback.
Hal I think Hal Brand is going to come back in a different disguise as a different alias and try to make more rings with
Oh
Celebrimbor.
yeah, there's 20 rings to make. Okay,
Yep.
we've only seen 3. I think that another batch of rings will be made in flashback, and we will get that story. And I think,
Oh
and
my
I
goodness.
think we will see Adar try to. We will see why Sauron's being is split in 2. Notice the language that he uses in episode 6. I split him in 2. He split the being
Oh,
in 2 like a Horcrux.
that's intriguing. I wonder what they're doing. Well,
Right.
that's a whole new world. Tolkien didn't write anything like that about Sauron splitting himself up like that. So that would be a whole bizarre new approach, but let's see what happens. Okay. Well, hey, there is Matt. Hello, Matt, Nerd of the Rings. Just joined us in the chat. And there's Tolkien. There's the Wonder of Tolkien. Hello, Wonder of Tolkien. It is lovely to see you
Some of
here.
the biggest all stars of this of Tolkien
Wow.
fandom and community. Shout out to Nerd of the Rings, getting some amazing interviews over the last few weeks. Go and subscribe to our channel first, and then subscribe to Nerd of the Rings channel. Make sure you have notifications turned on.
Yes. Now, let me just say that they have got to incorporate some of the feedback because none of us in this fandom have been quiet. None of us have been quiet or mousy. You know, a lot of people have, and Professor Corey Olson and a lot of other learned people have shared some terrific insights. And I'm actually, I'm very happy that we're all still here on the other side of this great big wave. Some of the best stuff in that show, like Arondir and Bronwyn and Theo and the really great energy with Disa and Durin and their family and Elrond coming in and the wonderful, wonderful things are proof. There's proof right there that they can do it. They can do it, and they can do it great. But it's also in existence in episodes 1 through 8. Season 1 is also proof positive that they can come up with stuff that is pretty daft, really daft sometimes. And some of us are just scratching our heads wondering, how did we get here? So let's see what happens as they incorporate more of their evolutionary process, as they described it, evolving and working on their own storytelling from there, versus incorporating some of the feedback that all of us are giving them. So let's see what happens, kids. We got 2 long years to wait. And in between them, are we going to get the release of the War of the Rohirrim before we get season 2 of Rings of Power? Which one comes out first?
Yes, War of the Rohirrim is coming out in the spring of 2024, and then the fall of 2024 will be Rings of Power. So that is a big year. But next year, Comic-Con should be all about War of the Rohirrim. So we fully expect our pals at Weta Workshop and Philippa Boyens and Jason DeMarco and all the wonderful people and friends to be back at San Diego Comic-Con this next year for a big push on War of the Rohirrim. So congrats to everybody that got their tickets this weekend. There will be a few more opportunities to get San Diego Comic-Con tickets because they are already going on sale.
Yes, they are. Wow, what a great show. And I say thank you, Justin, for pushing all the buttons, and thank you to the wonderful audience for showing up. I mean, you guys are the best audience. I love all the speculation. There's a lot of secondary and even tertiary characters on Rings of Power, and I see a lot of different Twitter accounts saying Nazgul emoji with all those tweets are like a picture of a side character, and then all of a sudden it says the thinking emoji. Nazgul. So I'm enjoying that. I'm still in that boat of enjoying some speculation about what's going to happen to Waldreg or Theo. How many of these Southlanders are going to become Nazgul? We're all wondering that, right? So, there's still some enjoyment to be had from that speculation.
And if you want to read more about what Patrick and JD and Lindsay have to say about season 2 and see those new photos, head on over to theonering.net. It's the top story and beginning a lot of comments. So we're really excited. And we're going to keep bringing you all the leaks and news and things and whispers and gossip that we hear every week. So
how much money do you want to bet that Farazar, our Farazon has a son, and his son might actually become a ring wraith or one of the possessor of the 9 rings. Wouldn't that be interesting? Kemen. His name is Kemen. No one has proposed that yet. I might be the first person to say.
We don't have rings. We don't have rings yet.
We don't have rings yet, but I mean, there's a lot of speculation about various different people of the Southlands who might become Nazgul. But at one point I thought our Farazon's son, Kemen, might become an interesting Nazgul in the future. I just thought of that out of the top of my head.
Would you allow
Kemen.
Would you allow for Isildur's sister to become a Nazgul?
Why not? Yeah, why not?
So you're okay with some female rulers, some women joining the Shadow Realm?
Do you think those 3 disciples of Sauron were Nazgul type when they were destroyed by?
They were in the Shadow Realm.
The stranger. Didn't they seem to be very Nazgul-like when we saw them in the unseen world?
XOXO 2000 says, I think Isildur is miscast. I get what you're saying. I think he's just misintroduced. I feel like they bumbled his introduction, but we will go into that further when we do our full season 1 report card. By the way, Cliff, upon watching Desolation of Smaug, there's this whole scene where Gandalf and Radagast go to the tombs in the cliffside.
The Etten Moors, yes.
I want to see who decided to build those.
Yeah.
And why.
All the way up there, yeah.
Yeah. Why? How? What is there a spell, a protective spell on those?
Yeah,
Uh, did they know that men were becoming Nazgul and they built those cliffside crypts?
I wonder.
See,
I
stuff
wonder.
that's stuff in the lore that I'm really excited to explore in this show. I hope that it's not just like one or two episodes of like everybody suddenly becomes a ring wraith and the battle's changed. Like the end of Return of the King when the army of the dead comes and the battle's over. Like I hope that a couple people become ring wraiths. Maybe they already figured out how to do ring wraiths. Maybe the white witches had become ring wraiths and
Maybe.
at Sauron's thing, and Sauron's like, I want that power too, and then he
Yeah.
tried it and he failed because he's his Maiar spirit can't do that, and I don't know, but there's a lot of room to play. I just liked going back to Desolation of Smaug. Don't watch the whole trilogy, but if you just watch Desolation of Smaug, there's a
Right.
lot of interesting lore building there. From Thranduil, remember when the magic in his face wears off and you see, I have fought dragons in the south or north. He says, I fought dragons in the north. Do not tell
Yes.
me what. Do not tell me what I do not
Yeah.
know. Like there's some magic and myth making and lore making going on in Desolation of Smaug that I hope gets introduced in this show because
Okay.
I'm loving Desolation of Smaug more and more, and it's probably your least favorite of the movies. Anyway, that's what I had to say.
No, I like the cool stuff they put back into the extended edition. Especially Gandalf going to rescue Thorin's father, Thrain. That was really good. And I wish they had never cut it out of the film, actually. So, well, how about that? We're here talking about the Rings of Power, and we ended up getting sidetracked to talk about the Desolation of Smaug. Once again, it's another weekly Torn Tuesday, and that's how it works. We're live, and we never know where we're going to end up. But my gratitude, as always, I extend my thanks to this beautiful, beautiful audience. Thank you, all you beautiful people, for coming to be part of our show and part of our dynamic, talkative audience. It's always great to have you all with us. Fantastic. And looking out to some of the really wonderful, top tier Tolkien accounts out there. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being amazing and for sharing all this good energy and bouncing that with us. Well, here we are on the other side of the Rings of Power. And next week, 1 week from today, Justin and I are going to have other guests come in and we're going to talk and get through a very complete report card. We'll break it down into subjects like we did at the midterms. We did the midterm report card in the middle of the semester.
And
Now we'll do an end of semester report card.
end of semester report card. And folks, this
Right.
is why it's really important that you binge season 1 this weekend because
To get the details. To get the details.
you all need to come correct to the creatives and
Yes.
come with the full knowledge of the season now in your head.
Nampat.
Oh man, let's not. Let's.
Nampat.
Ugh.
Nampat. Come on. It's the same thing as Grand. It's the same thing.
It's not.
I think it's fun. I think it's fun.
Okay.
Anyways, that's just me. You know what? Hey, you take what you can get. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us on Torn Tuesday. It is really wonderful. And my name is Clifford Broadway. Once again, you can follow me and some of my mischief on Instagram and Twitter at QuickBeam2000. And that's Justin over there. You can find him somewhere else. Do you want to do that, Justin?
No, we're here.
He does not want to do his personal accounts on the show. But join us, the One Ring Net. Take out the dot, and you can find us on all the socials as the One Ring Net. And our Discord server is brilliant, wonderful, and I really look forward to seeing you guys next week. Much more to come. Until then, until then, take good care of yourselves, be kind, and be beautiful, people. I love you guys. We'll see you next Tuesday. Until then, buenos noches y buena suerte. Also saying good night and good luck. You stop it with that. Stop it. Bye, everybody.